Good morning, everybody. I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. Now, if you may recall, last year, I started this Sofia the First Memory Lane Marathon with Princess Sofia's first episode, not counting the pilot special, just one of the princes, where she and her brother James were training for the Flying Derby tryout race. And while that was a promising episode to start off her first season, I'll admit, I kinda had issues with everybody saying that Flying Derby is not for princesses, which was not only mean-spirited, but Prince Hugo was also a complete jerk. But it was still a nice fresh start for the show. Anyway, for today's episode, we're gonna look at another Flying Derby episode, so let's get started. Airing on television on April 11th, 2014, this is The Flying Crown. Now, in this episode, James hurts his wrist, making him unable to fly in the Derby. So, Sofia is in need of a new partner, and the only one who's available is Prince Hugo. During their training for the championship race, Sofia teaches Hugo the meaning of teamwork and working together, which leads to them winning the prized Flying Crown trophy. So, what are my thoughts on this episode? Well, to me, while it does have several hiccups, I think this is another great episode. And to further explain why I think so, let's move on to Mustang notes. Now, the moral of this episode is a true champion is always a good teammate, which I think is another lesson that I know about. And nowadays, I know what it means to be a good sport and a good teammate. As for the animation, well, to me, the CGI animation by Toei is still good, but like just one of the princes, it has several goofs. Not just with the characters' outfits, but also a little bit of the writing, too. But still, I think the Royal Prep Derby racetrack looks very challenging, and my favorite part of this episode would have to be the championship race. And now, let's talk about the song featured in this episode, Huzzah, Huzzah, performed by the Royal Prep Spectators. Now, this is another one of my favorite songs in the series, and to me, it makes a great cheer song to support the school's racers. Also, during this episode, this cheer song is sung 3 times. The second version would have to be my favorite, due to Sofia and James using it to lure Hugo into riding for the team after he gave up. Also to note, this wouldn't be the only time this song is performed in the show, because a couple seasons later, this song would be sung with the Dunwitty Diddle in the Princess Jade episode. And now, let's talk about the characters and their voice actors. Princess Sofia is voiced by Ariel Winter, best known for being young Kairi in the Kingdom Hearts game series, Marina from Jake and the Neverland Pirates, Marlene from the complete version of Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, young Trixie from Speed Racer, and Smurf Lily from Smurfs the Lost Village. In my eyes, Princess Sofia is a great princess, and I think her horse riding skills have really improved ever since her show began in 2013. Also to note, Sofia's role in this episode is pretty similar to her role in the Tri-Kingdom Picnic episode, due to her teaching good sportsmanship. Sofia's horse Minimus is voiced by Eric Stonestreet, who would later voice Duke in the Secret Life of Pets movies. Over the course of the series, ever since the tryout race in Season 1, Minimus has been greatly improving with his flying skills. Also, he steadily grows bolder and gains more confidence in himself while riding with Sofia. However, like his rider, he's still very withdrawn and he avoids confrontation. But when it came to Hugo quitting on the Derby team just hours before the championship race, Minimus becomes enraged and he wishes to speak human just so that he would give him a talking to. Also, I find it pretty cute that Minimus has a secret crush on Electra. Next is Sofia's brother, Prince James, voiced by Zach Callison, who voiced King Tut in Mr. Peabody and Sherman, and a young Jiro Horikoshi in Hayao Miyazaki's The Wind Rises. In this episode, after he and Sofia win against Westlock, James accidentally trips on a rock and sprains his wrist, which sadly makes him unable to ride in the championship race. However, Sir Gilliam does give James a few jobs while he recovers, like assistant coach, horse groomer, and mascot. Next we come to Prince Hugo, who this time is voiced by Grayson Hunter Goss. Throughout most of this episode, Hugo is still a very rude, egotistical jerk who mostly cares about being number one, and he doesn't like to do team plays. But it's later revealed that his personality stems from the pressure of trying to live up to his family's legacy and the frustration at always failing to do so, which kind of makes you feel a little bit sympathy for him. Anyway, I like that Hugo does become a better person during the championship race, and I think that slingshot move that he does with Sofia was pretty amazing. Next we come to Hugo's new horse, Electra, voiced by Rose Abdou, whom was in Hotel Transylvania 2. Now, this beautiful mare comes from a long line of Derby champions, and she takes flying Derby racing pretty seriously. Also, I like that Electra takes an instant shine to Sofia, and I like the part where she tells Sofia about what Hugo has gone through. Also, while Electra was mostly annoyed with Minimus due to his sweet talking attempts, I like that she became nicer to him after winning the race. And finally, we come to the challenger for the championship race, Squires Vagon and Vance, the Flying Derby team of the Junior Knights Academy, both voiced by Sage Ryan, who had an appearance in Disney's A Christmas Carol from 2009. I find both these guys to be very rude, and I hate that they think that they are better than everybody else. Also, they're both jealous of Sofia and Hugo's friendship. Rounding out the cast is Hugo's big brother, Prince Axel, voiced by Colin Ford, Hugo's original voice actor, and Hugo's dad, King Garrick, voiced by Keith Ferguson, whom you guys will find almost everywhere in this series starting with this episode. And now let's move on to my final words. Overall, The Flying Crown was a pretty good episode. Yes, the CGI animation is still pretty good, despite a few goofs with a few characters' outfits. Plus, while there were a few writing errors, I think this is another good episode that teaches a good lesson about teamwork. Also, like I said earlier, Sofia's flying derby skills have really improved while riding with Minimus, and while Hugo was mostly a poor teammate, I like that he became a better character during this episode onwards. As for my rating, I'll give this episode a 94% out of 100. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to join me for my next vlog, which will include a girl who invents gadgets and gizmos. Mustang Power.